The forum for us. A very good morning to you, Nzinga. The forum is starting today. What can we expect?
A very good morning to you, Desiree, and our viewers. We're expecting that the World Economic Forum meetings will begin today, Tuesday, the 22nd of January 2019. We're expecting around 3,000 people to converge on this small, snowy town of Davos Klosters in order to discuss the theme, which is Globalization 4.0, shaping a global architecture in the age of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Now, that sounds very complicated, but Desiree, when you break it down, at the end of the day, Professor Klaus Schwab, who is the founder of the World Economic Forum, and these meetings is trying to make sure that globalization and the Fourth Industrial Revolution is done the right way. And for him, that means it's inclusive, it's human-focused, and it doesn't exclude people who have traditionally been left out of the economy. So even with the forum, there was an emphasis that the dialogue is not just among world leaders and business people. Young people are included, and there's a focus on making sure that there's a lot of young leaders who are at the meetings, who are participating in the different sessions that are taking place. Now, Davos is known as almost a festival of the wealthy. Very high-level conversations take place, and us as the media are allowed into some of those discussions. But it's also a way in which people discuss more than just money and business. Today, for instance, we're expecting sessions about loneliness, an epidemic in this Fourth Industrial Revolution. We're all connected to our phones. A lot of people use social media a lot, but with that comes a large sense of loneliness. So that'll be a session. There's also meditation that starts every morning at the World Economic Forum. If you'd like to center yourself before the craziness of the day. Yesterday we saw hundreds of people arriving at the centre, registering, getting ready to try and broker deals with some people to try and sell their countries or their businesses. We know that Team South Africa, which is led by President Cyril Ramaphosa and Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, has brought quite a strong delegation, and they're trying to continue to push their message of selling the country, of saying that South Africa is an investment destination. South Africa is a safe and good place to invest in. You'll know that we have had some economic challenges over the last 10 years or so, and President Ramaphosa and Finance Minister Tito Mboweni are really trying to sell the country to different stakeholders on that investment drive, seeking over $100 billion, which is around 1.2 trillion rand, to come in South Africa in the next 5 years. And the delegation that they've brought with them, people like MTN CEO Rob Shuter, APSA CEO Maria Ramos, CEO of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Those are some of the people who will be trying to sell the country. Reserve Bank Governor Lesitsha Kganyago is here as well. Interestingly, the Finance Minister Tito Mboweni leaving behind his delegation and coming one man. We know that he enjoys saying that he wants to get things done by himself. He doesn't like being driven around. He doesn't like the perks that come with being a minister. And we're also seeing that at Davos, and that's basically what's going to be taking place today.
Nzinga, there has been sentiment that the feeling towards South Africa is somewhat improved this year because, as you will remember, last year, around the Davos time, it was the president of South Africa was still Mr. Jacob Zuma, and there was talk of the finance minister then, Mr. Pravin Gordhan, being sent home. Have you had that sense of the sentiment towards South Africa being somewhat improved, as they say?
So last year, Desiree, Cyril Ramaphosa, who was our deputy president at the time, was in Davos. And when we were speaking to investors and business people throughout the course of our work on the SABC, there was a sense that there was excitement around President Cyril Ramaphosa because he's known internationally for his business knowledge. We know that he was part of the labour force before, the labour movement before, and then he went into business, and then he came back into politics. So people seem to have a confidence in the message that he was selling at Davos last year. This year, President Ramaphosa giving his marching orders, saying that Team South Africa is going to come to Davos with one message, speak with one voice as one country. So whatever the disagreements may be or whatever the conversations may be, when they're speaking to investors, they're all speaking with one voice. Two of the things that they're going to be raising, one is the state of state-owned enterprises. Eskom is a big issue. They're saying they're sorting out Eskom. We know that there was a a new board implemented recently. Eskom is still struggling financially and is seeking more money, but President Ramaphosa promising that he'll give more clarity on what's going to happen with Eskom. We've also got our Minister of Telecommunications, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, here. We know that the SABC has also been in the news sometimes for the wrong reasons because of the economic challenges that the broadcaster is facing. So we'll be speaking to her as well to get some clarity and find out what messages they're going to be sending out to investors on the stability of state-owned enterprises. We know that a lot has been done in terms of confidence. People have been speaking about that investor conference and the job summit as ways that they can see that South Africa is trying to change the way and the challenges that have been faced before and ensure that there's good governance, good corporate governance, there's clean governance, and that the state-owned enterprises work properly and are not just asking for bailouts and struggling there. So we know that that's the message that's going to be put through by President Ramaphosa, who's attending, obviously in his capacity as President of South Africa. Desiree.
What has been the response to IMF MD Christine Lagarde's assertion that economies are not really going to be growing at the desired level?
So that's a refrain that's been heard not just from the IMF but from the World Bank. You spoke in your introduction a little bit about the global outlook being revised downwards. South Africa, also our economic forecast being revised downwards by the World Bank. So those are the type of conversations that will be taking place. Obviously, we're going to sit in the meetings that we are allowed to sit in. We're going to be pulling footage from the meetings that perhaps we won't make it to give you a bigger picture of what's been said at the end of the day. I'll be crossing throughout the day on SABC News and bringing you what's been said, solutions that perhaps may be offered to that challenge. But we know that even before some of those meetings have happened, that a solution to that's being proposed is multilateralism and globalization 4.0 done the right way. So instead of protectionist measures, instead of the trade wars that we're seeing between the US and China, perhaps, and the protectionist measures that countries like the United States are taking, it's been said it must be a more open, inclusive, diverse, my apologies, economies and ways of doing things so that our global outlook can increase, so that our global future is not just a small one that's not inclusive of other people, because Trade and Industry Minister Rob Davies was saying to me yesterday, Dr. Rob Davies was saying to me yesterday, the only way we can actually grow as South Africa and as the world is if we have this type of globalization. People shutting other countries out and avoiding multilateralism is not going to help and it's not going to grow our economic future. Des.
And Nzinga, has there been conversation perhaps amongst the media or with anybody, all the people you're interacting with there, in terms of the absence of the United States, France, Britain and maybe Zimbabwe as well from the conferences here?
Yes, we know that Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa said that he was going to fly back to Zimbabwe after his meetings in Europe because, as we know, there's protests that were triggered by his announcement of an increase of over 50% in the fuel price. He did get very bad feedback for not going back immediately, as people were saying Zimbabwe is burning, but he is sitting, he was in Russia at the time with Russian President Vladimir Putin, so there was bad feedback about that. So he's gone back, but we know that his finance minister is still here. We are trying to secure an interview with him on SABC News. He will also be speaking to investors and speaking to world leaders and engaging with them about Zimbabwe and their economic situation. We know that Theresa May is facing quite a battering at home over her Brexit deal and how it's actually not working in the manner that she envisioned. US President Donald Trump not attending. We know last year there was a lot of excitement and unhappiness about his attendance at Davos. This year, Ivanka Trump is attending his daughter. We know that she works in the White House and she will be attending almost in his place. So we haven't really had discussions around that because people who are attending are people like German Chancellor Angela Merkel, like Ethiopian Prime Minister Ahmed Abiy. So there are interesting world leaders who are here, our President Cyril Ramaphosa and more, who people can engage with. And I think although their absence might be felt, there are lots of interesting leaders who are here who can still propose solutions lessons for this multilateral world and globalization 4.0 that's going to be spoken about during the World Economic Forum. Desiree.
Nzinga, thank you so much for that update, and we can't wait to talk to you later. Nzinga Qunta is coming to us there from Davos.